Hi, I'm Amy Romeo and welcome to the 12 Days of Christmas Crafts event where I'm sharing a new faux leather holiday craft every day for 12 days. Today's project is these really cute gnome candy cane holders. These are made from faux leather on the front and the back with some heat transfer vinyl accents applied. There's some little slits here that you can slide your candy cane in and out. And then I have two different versions of the design for you, one with a pre-cut hole so you can tie some ribbon and turn this into an ornament, and one without in case you wanted to just pop it into a stocking as a stocking stuffer. Now I'll show you how to get the SVGs for this project in just a moment, but first let's go through our supplies and materials quickly. I'll be using my Cricut Maker today, but you can use any of the current Cricut machines for this project because they all cut faux leather with just that standard fine point blade. If you're using the Cricut Joy, you'll need to use the longer 12-inch long Joy mat to make this project. Now the faux leather that I'm using is a white color, and that's because the white beard is what's showing through, and then underneath here is all white faux leather. I've just applied heat transfer vinyl on top. So whatever color you want your beard to be will be your faux leather color. This comes in rolls. There's also longer white faux leather rolls and also sheets. And I'll have links to all of the materials for you in the description. And then just some regular heat transfer vinyl. You can use solids, you can use glitters. It's completely up to you. And then you'll want to choose a color for your little gnome's hands and the nose. Caesar has a lot of really nice skin tone colors to choose from, so that's fun too. Now to apply the heat transfer vinyl to the faux leather, I'll be using my Easy Press Mini set to the low setting. You can also use a regular Easy Press or a regular heat press. You'll need a heat pressing pad of some kind and then a cover sheet like Teflon paper or butcher paper or parchment paper. This is just a piece of Teflon sheet that I've trimmed down to a smaller size. We'll need some blue painter's tape to help us get good cuts. You'll want a weeding tool, and then we'll also need some glue. And I like to use Beacon Fabri-Tac, but you can use any good craft glue or fabric glue. And I'll show you a great trick for getting these to be really nice and tightly glued together to create an almost seamless edge. Okay, so let me show you how to get the SVG for this project and then we'll get started. To get the SVG files for this project, visit amyromeo.com/Christmas24, or you could upgrade to the event VIP pass where you'll get instant access to all the event projects and tutorials, plus a workbook, some bonuses, and more. With a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload, and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file is for this project. That will be wherever you've downloaded it onto your device. When you find it, click on it to select it, and then click Open. You'll see a preview of the designs for this project. Click Continue, and then Upload. And our little shapes will come into the canvas. So you'll see, as I mentioned, we have two versions. We have the with hole version here if you wanted to make an ornament, and then we have the without hole version. So let me just ungroup these so I can drag them together. So we have a front and a back, and you can see that they are mirrored so that when they are glued front to back, they will fit perfectly together. Now, a few other things to note. The boot color, the boots are separate from the hat. I didn't group them together in Design Space in case you wanted to cut them from different materials or different colors. And then we've got our little striped layer on top. So if you wanted to use glitter heat transfer vinyl, which I like to do for the stripe layer, you'll want to make sure that your underneath layer is not glitter also, since we don't want to stick glitter heat transfer vinyl on top of glitter. So what I like to do is use glitter heat transfer vinyl for the boots, and then I use a nice solid for the hat, and then also glitter for the stripes. But it's totally up to you. So we'll just go ahead and delete the version that we're not going to use today. I have a lot of samples with the pre-cut hole, so we won't cut that one. Let's go ahead and cut the stocking stuffer version. So as I mentioned, these are going to be glued together. So the white faux leather base for the front, we'll have all the heat transfer vinyl applied, and then we will glue it to the back. Now, if you don't want to use faux leather, you don't have to. This is a great cardstock project as well. I would suggest cutting the front and the back from white cardstock. Again, applying your vinyl decorations and then gluing the front and the back together. So we'll go ahead and click the Make It button. we're cutting our materials on a mat. And we just want to go ahead and mirror each of these mats first by toggling that mirror button on the left-hand side. And that's because faux leather and heat transfer vinyl cut in reverse. Once I've done that, I just want to go through and separate out my little shapes. Now you can see here that the design is red and green, but you can cut these layers from any color you'd like. What I'm doing is just dragging my shapes apart from the edges of my mat edge just a little bit. That's going to help me get good cuts, especially with the faux leather, because we will be applying some blue painter's tape around on all sides. Now on the faux leather mat, I always like to take a look and see what size faux leather we need to put down so we get a complete cut. And it looks like we need a piece of faux leather about 8 inches wide and 7 inches tall. So I'll click continue. And to cut the faux leather mat, I'll be using this faux leather paper thin setting. If you don't have it bookmarked as a favorite like I do, you can click on Browse All Materials and search for it. If you're using the Explorer Air 2, you'll need to turn your dial to custom before you can find this when you search. So faux leather paper thin is our setting, and I always like to choose more pressure when cutting faux leather. Here's the reminder that we're just using the regular fine point blade that comes with your Cricut. And then for all of these other mats, we will cut them using the heat transfer vinyl setting that the manufacturer recommends for your particular heat transfer vinyl. Okay, let's hop back over to my overhead camera. We will get our mats cut out, and then I'll show you how to assemble these candy cane holders. So I've already gone ahead and trimmed my faux leather roll. I've trimmed a little piece of faux leather that's just slightly larger than my shapes that are going to cut. I've already put it down on my purple strong grip mat. This is pretty side down, and you just want to press that all over with your fingers to get it nice and stuck onto that purple strong grip mat. And then you want to use some blue painter's tape and tape this down on all sides. I like to save my blue painter's tape and reuse it a few times, so I have some extra pieces here that I can just reuse. Now the blue painter's tape is going to help keep our material down on the mat so that it doesn't shift or move while the Cricut is cutting it. Then the blue painter's tape won't leave a residue on your mat or on your faux leather. Okay, so we have our faux leather paper thin setting with more pressure all ready to go in the machine. So we'll just load the mat into the Cricut and begin the cut. So the Cricut is cut one time, and I always recommend before you unload the mat to use a sharp weeding tool and lift up the edge of the cut to see if it went all the way through. Now if a cut is a little more intricate like this one is, where we have those little cutouts for the candy canes, I like to just repeat the cut anyway, just to make sure that all the little edges and corners get cut out. The way we repeat the cut is just by pressing that cut button again, as long as you haven't unloaded the mat. If you're using the Cricut Joy, the option to rerun the cut will be on your screen in Design Space. So after the second cut, then you can always check again if you want to check any of the little spots like those little cutouts for the candy canes. You certainly can. You can repeat the cut as many times as needed to get a complete cut, as long as you haven't unloaded your mat. But this looks good, so I'm going to unload my mat and remove my shapes. Now my purple mat is very sticky, so you just want to pull gently so you don't rip or tear any of your faux leather. If some of these little cutouts don't come out easily, then you can use some small curved scissors or embroidery scissors just to trim up any edges. See, here's one little part that's a little bit stuck, so I'm just going to come in here and trim that off. There we go. Now I'm going to return to Design Space and cut out each of my heat transfer vinyl mats, again using the manufacturer's recommended cut setting. Then we'll come together again and we will press all of the vinyl layers onto the faux leather. So I've already gone ahead and cut out all 3 of my heat transfer vinyl layers. Now the one for the stripes that's glitter, I cut that from this green Caesar glitter, and I find that this heat transfer vinyl is a little thicker, so I like to repeat the cut at least one time. On my Cricut Maker, I only need to repeat the cut once, but downstairs when I cut on my Explorer Air 2, I like to cut it 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 times. So if you're using a thicker glitter heat transfer vinyl, just keep that in mind that you may need to repeat the cut a few times, which is very easy to do as long as you haven't unloaded that mat. So here we go. I've got my little stripe layer all ready to go. So now all I need is my Cricut Easy Press Mini, preheated to the low setting, which is that first green line. If you're using a regular Easy Press, I would set it to about 265 degrees. And what we need to do is get our little gnome layer here that is going to match up with all of our vinyl layers. So here I have my little hat, my boots, the hands and nose, and then also that stripe layer. So the first thing I want to do is put on the hat layer. So I'm just going to very carefully line up the edges here so that everything lines up neatly. You can take your time when you do this. Once it's all lined up neatly, then you're going to cover with your little Teflon sheet or butcher paper, parchment paper, whatever you're using. Cover and press. You want to get about 10 seconds of coverage all over. So when you're finished pressing, you want to very slowly and carefully try and peel away that clear carrier sheet. If when you're peeling your vinyl lifts up or bubbles, you want to just drop that right back down, cover and press some more. But this looks good, so I'm just going to carefully finish peeling. There we go. Then I'll go ahead and do the little boots here at the bottom. Now we're going to apply the little striped layer to the hat. And again, you're lining up those edges. So kind of move this around, move it into position until all of the edges of the little hat stripes line up with the edges of the hat. Might take a few minutes to get it right. There we go. Then we're just going to cover and press. There we go. Now the last step is just to do the little hands and the nose layer. Now I did not cut these shapes apart. I left them exactly the way they are together on my little cover sheet because now I can just place this down once instead of individually placing each of these little layers. And what we want to do is match up the nose with the bottom of the hat. And then we want to line up the hands so that they're just touching the edges of those little slots we cut out. So let me show you what I mean. The nose is touching the hat, and then here we've got the little fingers are just around one end of that slit, and here the fingers are on the other edge of the other slit. Okay, so again, cover and press. And that's it for pressing. Isn't that cute? Now what I like to do is put this underneath my heat pressing pad for just a minute or two to let it cool, so it cools nice and flat. While I do that, I'm going to get my glue ready to go. I'm going to turn my bottle upside down so I can get that glue coming down to the bottom. And then all we're going to do is turn our back layer over, and we're going to apply glue all over the back. We only need to apply glue on one side, and you want to get the glue as close to the edge as possible, but without having the glue come over the edge. That's because when we press this underneath our heavy book, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, that's going to help that glue spread right up to the edges and help us get that nice seamless edge. So I've got that glue all over the back. If you wanted to use something like art glitter glue or barely art glue, you certainly can. You'll just want to add a little bit more because those glues tend to absorb into the back of the faux leather material. Now all I'm going to do is take my little gnome here, my front, and I'm going to place him down on the back that has the glue applied. I want to line up those edges, so just give yourself a little bit of time to get that neatly all lined up. Make sure your little slots are lined up too, so the slots are neat and tidy. The faux leather you can sort of move with your fingers just a little bit if you need to. And once that looks good from the front to the back, then you're going to just place this on your work surface and then get a heavy book. And what you want to do is just place your little gnome underneath your heavy book for about an hour to let it dry really nice and flat. Then when it comes out, then you'll have your little slots here. You'll have a nice seamless edge, and then you'll be able just to take your candy cane. You're going to go down through the top slot and then back up through the bottom slot. And because the faux leather is thicker, it's really going to hold that little candy cane in place. And you have some nice structure because it's front to back in case you want to hang it as an ornament. So here's a look at all of the little candy cane gnomes together. I hope you enjoyed this project, and I can't wait to see you in the next video for the 12 Days of Christmas Crafts event.